welcome to or back to my channel. My name is Hannah. On this channel I read mostly romance, historical fiction, and fantasy. And today we're going to continue on with our kind of 2025 reset, cleaning out, spring cleaning type thing, with going through all of the series that I am currently in the middle of and deciding whether or not I am going to bring them into the new year or just leave them in 2024 and DNF them. Honestly, I have no problem DNFing individual books. I really do struggle with DNFing series. I'm not sure why that is. I feel like because I've already invested time and money into, like, especially if I've read the first and second books and then I decide to DNF, I feel like that's a real struggle for me because I have invested so much time. But honestly, I do feel like my reading taste has kind of changed over the last year or 2 years, and there's just things that maybe I would have enjoyed in the past that I don't anymore, or whatever. I'm gonna DNF series that I don't think I'm gonna actually enjoy in the long run, because there are so many good books out there, and why am I gonna waste my time on things that I don't enjoy? Like, I literally have 25 books that I just told y'all about that I need to make time for. So we're gonna do some spring cleaning today, and let's get right into that. Of course, I do have my handy dandy computer to keep me organized, because without this, this would be a mess. We're gonna start strong. We're gonna start with Belladonna by Adalyn Grace. This is a kind of murder mystery, fantasy, romance combo mix. Am I going to continue this trilogy? I read the first book, and the answer to that, I would say, is firmly no. As much as I thought that the first book was okay, it did not live up to the expectations that I had for it. And I'm not sure if that's because the hype around it was so high, or because I was expecting something a little bit more sophisticated. I previously read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, and that book deals with a kind of similar story idea. It has similar plot points, especially in regards to death being personified, and I feel like that book did it a lot better. I also felt like Belladonna read really young, and I understand that it's why I would be concerned if it read like an adult book, but I do not believe personally that a book being YA necessarily has to mean that it's bad or it's dumbed down or anything like that. I just felt Belladonna was really juvenile. The romance was really, 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 really insta-lovey, and the plot, the world, the magic system, it was all just half-baked. And so I think that's a series that I'm definitely not going to continue. It was fun, it just wasn't for me. Next up, we have Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. So this is actually a standalone fantasy. However, it does have a prequel book. I believe that is called A Day of Fallen Night. I will put up the cover here so that I'm speaking truth. I read Priory of the Orange Tree back in 2023, at the end of 2023, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the ending was rushed, but for the most part, I was really engrossed in the world and the characters, and so I definitely do plan to read A Day of Fallen Night at some point. It's not necessarily on my top books to read. If you watch my last video, I did state another series by Samantha Shannon, the Bone Season series, as part of like my top 25 reads for 2025. So that will definitely take precedent over the prequel, but I do intend at some point to get to A Day of Fallen Night. I'd love to be back in that world. Next up in the fantasy category, we have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This one might be kind of like a hot take one. I know people really, really love this trilogy and this author. I know Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy is some people's like do or die favorite trilogy. However, I do not think that I am going to be continuing the Caraval trilogy. I read Caraval and the second book, Legendary. I gave Caraval 4 stars, and I will stand by the fact that that book pulled me single-handedly out of a reading slump, and it dealt with a theme, like a carnival theme, that I had never read before. So it was very exciting and fun, and I had issues with it when I first read it, but it was just fun. So I gave it 4 stars, and I'll stand by that rating. However, Legendary, I gave 2 stars, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. I gave 2 stars, and I will not be standing by that one. That one was really bad, and I don't mean to offend anyone. I'm like not trying to shit on your favorite book if this is your favorite book, but for me personally, I found so many plot holes. I felt that the characters were really flat, the plot was recycled in so many ways, and I knew exactly who Legend was from the moment that I started that book. And because of those things, I just felt like I just was so like hesitant to pick up the 3rd book, and I have not picked up the 3rd book. I tried last month in December, and I just couldn't do it. Like I was trying to listen to an audiobook because I was like, maybe I can just get through an audiobook, and then I realized I don't have to do this to myself. I can just stop reading it. And as hard as it is for me to DNF a series that I've put so much time into, and one that I spent money getting the 3rd book, I just don't think I'm gonna like it, guys. It would literally just end up being a hate review, and I don't really want to do that. So we are going to DNF the Caraval trilogy. Now, the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, I'm still kind of on the fence about. I'm not sure that Stephanie Garber's writing is really for me, and that those problems that I had with her writing will really go away in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. But a lot of people love it, and there is still some intrigue there. So that one might get picked up, but certainly not Caraval anymore. So next up in our fantasy section, we have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Onyx Storm just came out today on the day that I'm filming this. So this feels very apt. I personally enjoyed Fourth Wing, but I've heard so many bad things about the 2nd book, Iron Flame. And I think I mentioned this again in my last video, but I am truly just waiting for the reviews for Onyx Storm to come out, because I want to see if the diehard fans are going to stick with it after this one. If it's good, if it redeems the series after like what everyone says was a flop of a 2nd book. And if it is positive, if the general reception of Onyx Storm is positive, I will probably continue this series, because I did enjoy Fourth Wing. All right, next up is another, I would say, controversial one, and this one is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I know that this is a beloved series for so many people, and it's gained, I feel like, a lot of traction, especially in the last like couple of months to a year, I would say. I gave the first book 4.5 stars. In my heart, do I believe now that it was a 4.5 stars? No. I think I wanted to like it more than I actually did like it. I think it was objectively good, but the problem of the fact that I could not connect to many of the characters was still present even at that time, because that continued throughout the 2nd book. And by the end of the 2nd book, I couldn't even have told you what happened in that book, at least in the last like 1/3 of that book. From the moment that I put the book down, I was just like, I don't know, guys. And I really wrestled with this one. Like, I still bought the 3rd book and was planning on reading it up until recently, but I genuinely feel like it's just, I don't ever have a desire to return to that world. I just don't think it was for me. But I would read other things by Sabaa Tahir. Let me make that clear. I would read other things by her. Moving on, we have the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare. This is actually a reread series for me. I read these back when I was like 16 or 17, and if you've read the 3rd book, you know how absolutely earth-shattering the end of that 3rd book was. And I reread the 1st book back in July of last year. I haven't picked up the 2nd one, but it doesn't really matter because it's a reread. Like, I kind of already know the story, and I just want to experience again. So I will be picking up the 2nd book at least at some point this year. I'm not sure when, but yeah, that series, that trilogy, and in particular, has a special place in my heart. It holds a lot of nostalgic memories. So The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. That was a quick one. And finally, we have what I believe is a series. I'm not sure if it's just going to be a duology. They're more like novellas, like short stories, and that is the Curse Bearer series by Veronica Roth. The first book is When Among Crows, and I read this one last month, and I had very mixed feelings about it. There were some parts that I really enjoyed, and then there were other parts where I was like, I don't know, but I felt like the majority of the problems could have been solved if it was like 50 to 100 pages longer. And now she's coming out with a 2nd installment. I'm not sure if it's a direct sequel or if it's just within that world or what. I don't know if it's a full-length novel or another novella. Regardless, she's putting out another book in this series, and I will probably pick that up. I didn't not enjoy the first one. I just didn't love it as much as I wanted to. Regardless, the covers are actually stunning. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I read the first one solely because the cover was stunning, and I'll pick up the second one partially because the cover is stunning. So that one will be continued. All right, let's move on to our romance section of the video. This one's pretty long, and we're not gonna spend too much time on the romance section of this video. I don't think it's super necessary, but The Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. Now, I know that the Zodiac Academy is especially dear to the hearts of all of the girlies on Book Talk, and it's not, this is the prequel series, by the way. It's not that I didn't like it, like I didn't actively hate read it, but I felt like as the series continued, I got 3 books in, by the way, out of I believe like 5. It was just, the plot was being lost, the ridiculousness level was getting higher. I started to not like our main female character because it felt like she wasn't taking the hint that none of the guys that she wanted to be in a relationship with altogether didn't want to do that little like why choose moment. For various reasons, some of which had to do with the plot, and we're just like, how are we gonna resolve this? Like, the differences are so immense that it would be really tough to make that work plot wise in a believable way. And also I felt like the characters were becoming pretty juvenile and one note. There was a myriad of issues, not to mention the fact that this world is so silly. It's so silly. Like, I cringed so many times. And again, I read 3 books, so there was something that I enjoyed about it. Leon Knight, if you know, you know. I hate to say that particular phrase, like that's cringe to me, but if you know, you know. Leon Knight, I do love him. And if I read the 4th book, it would be because of Leon Knight. So that's a maybe. That's a maybe. Next, we have Ironside Academy. I talked about this one in my last video. This is a why choose romance. 6th book is coming out, I believe, in like May or June, and I could not be more excited about it. I will 100%, 1000% be reading the next installment. I will reread the series as soon as all of the books are out. Like, I genuinely, this gives me so much entertainment, and I will binge read these books. I love them. So that series 100% stays with me in 2025. And on a similar note, we have the Fire and Desire trilogy by Chloe Chastain. This is like a dragon shifter Omegaverse romance. Don't okay, hear me out. If you like Omegaverse, if you like dragons, you could like this. I don't think this book is for everyone. I don't think this trilogy is for everyone. It's not good. It's entertaining, if you get what I mean. It's not like, but it's, yeah, you know what I mean? I did read the 1st book and I really enjoyed it. The 2nd book, I struggled to get through it. Oh, the plot was so lost. We were getting fed crumbs, but I'm hopeful that maybe the 3rd book will pull through. I believe it comes out in like March or something. So this one again is another maybe. It's leaning towards like a maybe to no, because I feel like the 2nd book flopped so hard that I'm like, is it redeemable? But I really love the 1st one. We have I don't even know who this is by. Oh, Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. This is like a 20-book series. I read the 1st one and most of the 2nd one, and I probably will not continue this series. I'm sure you've heard of it. I mean, they're like kidnapped by aliens and then crash land on this like alien planet, and then when they get out, they find all these other aliens who like want to mate up with them, and it's a monster romance. The plot goes from there. Anyways, it's entertaining. The plot is paper thin, and all the books kind of like, or at least the 2 that I read, were very similar in terms of like story arc, and as fun as they are, as much as I may like finish the second book one day, I'm not going to read 20 books of this series. No, thank you. So that's that. Ice Planet Barbarians. I think monster romance for me in general is probably not my particular cup of tea. Legacy of God series by Rena Kent. I read the first 3, so God of Wrath? No. God of Malice, God of Pain, and God of Wrath. I read those 3. I believe it's 6 books in total. I'm absolutely going to continue this. I actually really like this series. I think I read the first 3 in such quick succession that by the time I got done with the 3rd one and started the 4th one, I was like I've had too much. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm satiated. We can pick this up later. And so it will be picked up later at some point. Now, the Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas. Cannot say the same for it. I don't know what possessed me to pick up this series. I read Corrupt and I didn't even look at it as a romance. I didn't even look at it as a dark romance. I was like, this is a horror book. This is so horrific and deeply, deeply cringy. Like, like all the main male characters are just cringy boys who peaked in high school and like literally can't move on, and they just do all of this horrible stuff, and there just is not enough groveling in the world to make up for the horrible stuff that they do. I read through Kill Switch because everyone told me, oh, Kill Switch, just get to Kill Switch is amazing. Kill Switch was not amazing for me. Kill Switch did not do enough to redeem that character. It didn't even do nearly enough to redeem that character, and I thought the FMC and his relationship were so boring. Like, it was so long. That book was so long. It just did nothing for me. Kings of Sin and Twisted series by Anna Huang. I will continue these series. I personally love an Anna Huang book. I usually read them in like 2s, so I'll read like 2 Anna Huang books every like couple of months. And I really do enjoy them. I really loved King of Pride, and I really loved, controversially, Twisted. Was it good? No. But it was so messy. It was like the type of messy that makes a book so much fun. And I didn't like Twisted Games simply because it did not have the same level of mess as Twisted did. And it was very long. It was very long for what it was. But I am hopeful for Twisted Hate and Twisted Lies. And I do have the Striker right here, so I'm an Anna Huang fan, so that will be continued. Moving on, we have the Dreamland Billionaires trilogy by Lauren Asher. If you can see behind me, I have all 3 of the Dreamland Billionaires trilogy, along with the, I believe, Lakefront Billionaire books in I believe is a trilogy. The first 2, I have the first 2 books in that, which are enormous for romance books, by the way. And then I have Throttled, which is her F1 romance series. I read Terms and Conditions. Well, first of all, I read the fine print back in 2023. And then I read Terms and Conditions last year. So I'm reading about 1 Lauren Asher book per year. Somehow I have like almost her whole backlog. But I was not a huge fan of either Terms and Conditions or the fine print. I don't know if I'm a fan of Lauren Asher. I don't know if her writing is for me, and it's just so sad that I've gotten all of her books just to figure that out. But I do have hope for Final Offer. I will finish the Dreamland Billionaires trilogy out. I have hope. I heard it's a friends to lovers second chance type beat. I have hope for it, but it is like an unenthused, yes, I will continue, if that makes any sense. It's not at the top of my list. It's not even really at the bottom of my list. It's just somewhere out in the ether waiting to be read. Moving on. A series close to my heart that I did not finish for a valid reason, but again, it will get read. And that is the Boys of Tommen series by Chloe Walsh. I loved the Boys of Tommen. I read Binding 13, Keeping 13, and Saving 6. And I loved all 3 of them. Like, my whole heart loves those characters and loves that story. However, I did start redeeming 6 and got about 200 pages in before I had to put it down. These books deal with a lot of incredibly heavy topics. Like you really are like in the mud with these characters. And so I think at the time that I was reading Redeeming Six, I just read the first 3 books, and it was just too much for me at the time. So I do plan on picking up Redeeming Six again and reading it all the way through, and then obviously Taming Seven. Next up, I have the Rebel Blue Rant series. I have it right here by Layla Sage. I read Done and Dusted back, I believe, in May of last year, and is it amazing? No, I didn't expect it to be. It's like a cute little cowboy small town romance, and I think the first book is dealing at a very surface level things that I was also dealing with. Like the FMC was going through a very similar thing to what I was going through, and so I appreciated it. Do I expect, again, anything massive from the series? No, but when you want something that's like quick, fun, easy, entertaining, I think that this series will be good. Now, the next one is, this one's kind of heartbreaking even for me. Truly, I fell in love with these characters. Truly, I did. And so it breaks my heart to say that I will not be continuing it, and that is the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. Once again, I really loved it. I really loved Addicted. I really loved Lily and Lo. I really felt like the found family aspect in these books was genuine and believable, and they all made sense as friends together. However, there were certain things within the plot, especially once you got to the Calloway Sisters series, that I didn't agree with, that I thought were suspect at best, and some things later on that I felt were straight up, I don't want to say character assassination because I feel like that's a really strong word, but like they just didn't make any sense. They didn't make any sense. Like what was going on with the characters didn't make any sense with who the characters were and what they had stated they had previously wanted for themselves, especially in the case of Lily, who is the main female character of the Addicted series by itself. She was starting to become kind of infantilized in a way that was just very uncomfortable. So as much as it breaks my heart to not continue this series, I will not be continuing. And then finally, we have the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So this series is a series about a bunch of like gifted teenagers and join, like, I believe the FBI or the CIA or something, some division of that young youth talent thing. And they are tasked with like solving crimes and things like that. And they're trained to do that using their abilities. I read the first one on vacation. It was fun. It was fun. I didn't like it at first. I thought I would read really young at first, which again, it's YA. It shouldn't read like an adult. But it did read pretty young when I started it. But by the end, I flew through it. I really enjoyed it. And this series is more of like a maybe. Like if I pick up the second book, I pick up the second book. If I don't, it's okay. Like I'm not gonna like cry over it. Like I'm not gonna lose sleep over these characters or this world. But they are fun. So if I'm looking for something that's quick and fun and not like a romance, I may in fact turn to The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. All right guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope to get kind of a reading vlog up soon. I know I missed last week. Life's been lifing. What can I say? Next week is either going to be like my TBR for February, or don't ask about my January TBR. It's like not looking good. It's not looking good. But we are going to do another one because there's a reason why I didn't get to a lot of my January TBR. So probably not a reading vlog next week, but definitely one coming in the near future. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next Friday when I will see you again. So see you next Friday. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.